Welcome back to another episode of City Speak. I am your host, Clarence Anthony, CEO and Executive Director of the National League of Cities. Today, we have a special episode to share with you this week. And, it's a special one because I'm joined by our mayor, Mayor Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C., in our studio here at the National League of Cities. I'm a fan, and the mayor knows that because every time I talk to her, I tell her, I watched you on the news. I loved how you're leading the city. I love how you're framing how we have to lead in a positive way in our nation. And this is the mayor's hometown, D.C. And she was elected first as an advisory neighborhood commissioner in 2004. She was then elected as a member of DC City Council from 2007 to 2015 and currently serves as Washington, D.C.'s seventh mayor. And she's held that role since 2025 and done an amazing job. She's also a part of NLC family. And I'm thrilled to have her as a partner co-chairing our America's Housing Comeback, NLC's advisory group on housing, and partnership with Mayor Mark Shepard from Clearfield, Utah, and other members of the group. The comeback will focus on enhancing our federal-local partnership and our public-private partnerships to advance housing supply in America, not just in D.C., but DC has done some great things, and I think all of our listeners would really appreciate learning about what DC has done. Mayor, first of all, welcome to City Speak.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm glad to see you doing this.
Yeah. We've had some high-level, top-level guests here, but it is an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you being here. Let's kick things off with a personal question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
It's not too personal.
Okay.
Because I don't do that here at City Speak. You've been mayor for 10 years now.
Yep.
What motivated you to wake up one morning and say, I want to be a part of leading my hometown, my neighborhood, and then my hometown?
Well, when I made the decision to run for mayor, I had served on our city council for almost 8 years. And before that, as you know, in my lengthy introduction, that I also served in a volunteer elected role as an advisory neighborhood commissioner. So in all of my career, I've been focused on communities, making communities better, bringing housing, bringing transportation options. And I realized early on that the best way to do that and the fastest way to do that in Washington, D.C. Is to get elected. And here, as I'm sure most of your listeners know, we're unique in the American system. We're a city, county, state all at once. The mayor is a mayor, a county executive, and a governor all at once. And we do it with kind of one hand behind our back, or two, if you will, because we don't have two senators. And so we run our city, and we're proud of the way we run our city. Some people say, including me, that we're a well-run city. We have reserves that are enviable. We've achieved the AAA bond rating. We balance our budgets every year, and we make the types of investments in our city that has allowed us to grow. Last year, we were the fastest growing district in the nation.
Wow.
More than any state, even Florida, more than any city, the fastest growing jurisdiction in America. And we do that because we've invested in public safety, public schools, public parks, and people want to live here and grow their businesses here.
Yeah, there is something special, though, about going away to college. I went away to college, and then I came home and I ran for mayor for my hometown.
Yeah.
And one of the things special about it is people can't tell you about things who work for you that you don't know about.
Correct.
A neighborhood, right?
Yes.
especially when you were once a tour guide
Yeah, true,
for the
true.
district. So I definitely appreciate that, the fact that you understand the residents, you understand the communities, because you are a product of that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I know you're very proud of that.
Well, I tell people all the time, there really is no better job than being mayor of your hometown.
I agree.
And I tell people, they ask me like, "What do you want to do?" And will you go into the administration? No, like there's no better job in Washington than being if you love politics,
Yeah.
and you love policy like I do, you can't have a better job.
Oh man, I do. I love both.
Right.
And I was blessed to get this job because I can play politics
Yes.
without having the
Yes,
responsibility
yes.
of the election process. But one of the things that you have been doing is focusing on the issue of housing.
Yes.
And the desire for everybody in DC to be able to get one. And you said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set a goal.
Yes.
I'm going to set a goal of 36,000 units in Washington, D.C. And that goal was very important to you. And I want you to talk about that and how maybe a federal partnership played a role in achieving that goal that you set.
So when I became mayor, Clarence, 10 years ago, think back 2015, we were just had a raging economy, growing fast. And what that created was a lot of opportunities, but it also created a lot of pressures. So, what we saw was the cost of housing going through the roof, and we realized that the threat to our future growth was affordability. And if for us to be able to compete for jobs with regions all across our country, we had to be an affordable place to live, or companies won't locate here. People won't raise their families here. They'll come here for college or shortly thereafter, and then they'll move to some place where they find more affordable. So keeping housing costs low was important at the time, and it's going to be important for us moving into the future so that people have affordable places to live. And we believe that the government had a role to play in shaping the policy environment that would allow that to happen. Because the government can send a signal to the private sector: you can work here. You can make money here. You can rely on reasonable regulation here. And you can deliver a quality product here. And one thing that we heard time and time again was that there are gaps when you're talking about affordable housing and you want to be affordable. And in some ways, the government is kind of telling you you have to have some below market units here. What the private sector hears is, how am I going to make my money back? And if I have a reliable partner in the government to do that, to fund that gap, then DC becomes a very attractive place to do business, especially if nobody else is doing it.
Right.
And what we found looking back now, these 10 years, is that we've invested the most per capita in funding that gap to any place in America. And so that's why we've been able to attract private capital, great developers, for profit and nonprofit developers, and really deliver those units. So the goal was important, is because I have to be able to convince my policymakers, the city council in the district, that we can do this, that there are actually projects that are out there, there are people who want to do them, and they're looking for a reliable partner. We looked across the city, not just in one neighborhood, to see what a pipeline could look like, or what the pipeline did look like. And then we set out to make the investment each and every year.
One of the things, and when you were talking, I started thinking about the fact that good public policy is one where the public and private partnership occurs.
Yeah.
Because you can have a vision on a plot of land or a neighborhood, but if there's no interest in investing in it,
right,
it's not going to happen. But on the other side, if the private sector wants to do something, but they don't have the public sector engagement
right,
there and commitment, it just doesn't work.
Right.
So I appreciate you sharing with our listeners that it takes both. It
Yes.
takes both to create good public policy. So I want to talk a little bit more about the housing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you and I, NLC, partnered on a housing summit.
Yes.
And out of that came this concept that the time is now to
Mm-hmm.
really focus on the issue of housing supply and to take the things that you've done here in DC a little bit nationally to compile some kind of best practices. So we created this concept called um, the America's Housing Comeback Advisory Group, and you've
Yes.
chaired that. Why do you
Yes.
think the time is now?
Well, I kind of think the time is always now for housing, but I will say that what I've been struck by is that jurisdictions of all sizes are saying the time is now.
Mm,
It's not just on the East Coast, it's not just the West Coast, it's not just cities with more than 500,000 people, it's not just college towns, it's not just beach towns. It's every town is saying we need to focus on housing. 10 years ago, there were places in the West that didn't have an affordable housing issue,
right.
and now they are struggling to make sure that they can have, homes that are less than $1 million or $2 million or $5 million. So we weren't having that when we convened the forum some years ago with Mayor Freeman Wilson.
Yeah,
That they weren't part of the conversation.
correct.
Now they are.
Yeah.
So I think the time is now for us to see housing as more than just an urban issue, but it's an issue for cities and towns across America, no matter size.
I agree, and that's why Mayor Shepherd is from a smaller city
Yes,
because we wanted to make sure that all of our members would be able to see themselves in this discussion around
absolutely.
housing.
Absolutely.
And since the pandemic, what we've seen is especially folks are moving out of some of the major cities and expecting they can go into small and rural communities and find housing, and it's not there. So I know that the housing comeback is timely and it's needed,
Hmm.
and the outcomes and the toolkits that we're going to provide to all members in America from what you're leading is going to be really important to us.
Right. And I just think kind of our message, our value. I lead from my values, and my values tell me that people should have access to safe and affordable housing.
Hmm.
Okay. And there's a spectrum all the way from publicly provided housing to market rate housing. And we need to make sure that there are policies in place to encourage production along the whole spectrum.
We know our role and responsibility. What is the role of the federal government? How did you use it when achieving your goal, but globally, nationally?
I think that's a great question. And we kind of start with the units that they control or
Mm,
support or subsidize in some way in public housing. I think for many years, the federal government pushed away from its responsibilities in public housing. And all of the public housing that we have in DC, which is not a big chunk of our portfolio, but also the federal housing vouchers, they play a key role in helping people afford, affordable units. I also think the federal government does a great job when they focus on a population. And I think
mm.
veterans, focusing on veterans, vouchers for veterans, support service for veterans, really helps people who are very deserving, who sometimes have a lot of need, and it works when they have a voucher and supportive services, they can get housed. And that especially will help cities who have unhoused residents who need to get into permanent housing. So I think that's important. But I also think that the federal innovation can be helpful as we think about production. We have to tackle how much it costs.
Yeah.
Affordable units and the subsidy numbers that we have to provide for affordable units are out of this world. And some of it has to do with just the cost of production. So I think that the federal government has experience with affordable housing. They do base housing and, armed forces housing. They've experience with materials and how we get materials and making sure we have productive trade relationships around materials. I'm really concerned
Yeah.
about what that's going to, housing costs are already crazy. Now imagine if steel and lumber is tariffed at rates that it will just trickle down to the rest of us. And so all of our affordable housing dollars, they it just won't go as far. So I think, to the extent that they're thinking about these trade policies and
Mm-hmm.
carving out for materials that support affordable housing, I think would be much needed.
I've heard you talk about housing being the foundation of building wealth and
Yes.
building a real place in a community.
Yes.
Talk to us about how you view housing as the start of creative wealth in communities.
Well, I think for most middle class people, and certainly middle class Black people and the people in Washington, D.C., of all backgrounds, their wealth is in their home.
Hmm.
Their wealth is in their home, and it's just that simple. And they are able to send kids to college. They're able to live the American dream because they invested in a home. And we have been privileged in our city to see values just increasingly go up. And so that's how people build their American dream. That's how I built mine. And I'm a firm believer in it. We in the city partner with potential homeowners with programs that help with down payments and help with credit repair. And we have a program especially for our government employees to help them get down payments. I'm so happy when one of my staff comes over to me and said, "I used EF, Mayor. I bought my house, Mayor." And it's
Oh,
one of the things that just makes me the happiest.
yeah, because they're on their way.
They're on our way.
Because I moved here 12 years ago, bought in Northeast, and I'm ready to retire now because
Oh,
of
stop it.
that. No, but it really has been a major difference in your financial status
Of
as
course.
well. So I think
It
it's very
helps.
much accurate.
Yes.
So let me just say this. I've asked a number of mayors about why their city is the greatest city in the world. I used to
Mm-hmm.
say in America,
Right.
but now I'm just going to go global in the world,
Yeah.
and especially with DC.
Right.
People oftentimes they think about the monuments, they think
Yes.
about the White House
Yes.
and Congress, all those things as DC.
Mm-hmm.
What would you really want to say that they don't know about the neighborhoods that we live in DC that would bring them here and you're proud of?
Well, I'm just on my way here. I noticed a neighbor, a resident. I'm driving down the street. She had her cell phone up like 2 inches from a tree that was in full bloom with the cherry blossoms, and she's just taking a picture of the cherry blossom. So, like, I think it's so much that I want people to know across America about our city. Number one, we take care of ourselves. And that sometimes is a misconception about us being part of the federal government or wards of the state. No, we raise and spend our money just like every state. The laws of the federal government apply to us just like the 50 states. So we serve in wars, we serve our country, we pay our taxes more than most, I might add. We give more than we get. So that's what I want your listeners to know, that DC is, while unique, we have all the responsibilities of citizenship and statehood without being a state or having two senators. The other thing is, I want them to know that people live here. 700,000 people live here, not just the federal government, not just visiting dignitaries, but 700,000 people live here. That makes us larger than two states and a major American city. I'd also say we are the best city in the world, which I tell people. And just think, we're kind of we're easily located in the center of the East Coast, a train ride away from New York City, close to the beaches, 2 great airports, and wonderful amenities. And we're kind of a big small town. Like people
Yeah.
know each other. You recognize people in the grocery store while you're in one of the most important cities in the world. So we're proud of our town, and we're proud that we're growing. We know this, and you know this. People vote with their feet.
Yeah.
When they're moving here, they're sending their kids to our schools. They're visiting here. We broke our tourism record last year. Over 26 million people visited. So people vote with their feet, and they know what happens when they come here. One of the things I'm very proud of is when I meet with a lot of the ambassadors. 180 countries are represented here with their embassies, and they always tell me how pretty and green and clean the city is. And that just, I think it surprises people. The one thing about our lower buildings, you go to other cities, they're skyscrapers, is our skyline is
Oh, it
magnificent,
is.
and the sunshine and trees and greenery that we have because of it is amazing. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
And you can tell by listening to you talk about your hometown and your city
Mhm.
that there's a love letter that you just
Yes,
said
thank
in
you.
your comments about
Mhm.
your community. And I can tell you the way I describe it is there's DC
Mhm.
and then there's Washington.
Yes.
And when you get outside of downtown and you go into the neighborhoods, as I toured to find a place to stay,
Mhm.
when I moved here, I was just pleased that it was so neighborly and people were so kind. When I
Mhm.
travel, my neighbors say, "Hey, we know you've been traveling, but we got you." And
Right,
so I
right.
feel so safe
Right.
and
Good.
comforting and
Good.
at home. And so I appreciate that,
Thank you.
what you've done. But I also want to thank you for being on City Speak.
My pleasure.
We subscribers, listeners, we have had a great conversation with the nation's city capital mayor, Mayor Muriel Bowser. And I hope that you will listen, learn, and share any feedback with us. Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you,
And I
Clarence.
appreciate the conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to City Speak with Clarence Anthony. If you like this show, let us know. Share this episode with your friends and make sure to subscribe. We're curious to hear what you think, what you want more of, and how we can improve. If you have feedback or an idea for a guest you'd like Clarence to sit down with, send us your thoughts at cityspeakpodcast@nlc.org. Join us next month for a new episode. Like and subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.